With each day now, we're getting all this new information. So I'm not going to ask you to predict the future on the next 6 months, but as that new information has come, what criteria are you going to be using to decide when and if you can resume? For example, the CDC has recommended no gatherings of more than 50 people for at least 2 months. So what is the point where you're going to feel, okay, we can actually talk about resuming?
Well, to your point about not predicting the future, I've certainly learned sort of in this job and in this process that when people do pretend they can predict the future, they're generally wrong. And I'd say look no further than the fact that certainly 2 weeks ago and even a week ago, people were saying very different things than they're saying today. And so, of course, one of the things that we're very focused on at the league office and together with our teams is what are the conditions we would need to restart. And I'd say I'm looking at 3 different things here. One is, of course, when can we restart and operate as we've known it, 19,000 fans in buildings, and sort of that's one set of criteria. Then option 2 is, how would we, should we consider restarting without fans, and what would that mean? Because presumably, if you had a group of players and staff around them, and you could test them and you could follow some protocol, doctors, health officials may say it's safe to play. So that's sort of second set of circumstances. And then the third option that we're looking at now, and I would say all suggestions welcome, is that as I sort of beginning of this interview, I've mentioned the impact to me on the national psyche of having no sports programming on television. And one of the things we've been talking about, are there conditions in which a group of players could compete, and maybe it's for a giant fundraiser or just for the collective good of the people, that you take a subset of players, and is there a protocol in which they can be tested and quarantined or isolated in some way, and then they can compete against each other just because, again, people are stuck at home, and I think they need a diversion, they need to be entertained. And I just add to that point, one of the thoughts I've heard from several of our teams, and something I've been thinking about a lot is, to the extent we were the first to shut our league down, in what way can we be a first mover to help restart the economy? Because I would just add is, when you think about public health, of course, shutting down the economy, I'm not criticizing the fact that we're doing it right now, I'm following whatever the directives are, but there's no doubt that shutting down the economy is a public health matter as well. I mean, just in the case of the NBA, when you include all our day of game workers in our arenas, just the NBA accounts for roughly 55,000 jobs. And so it's like, I think we all have to be thinking collectively at what the right balance is. And I know, of course, this is the obligation of government officials. When will it be okay to sort of come back out of our homes and say it's time to re-engage with each other? And as I said, when I look at the options, maybe we can do this incrementally. The first step isn't games with thousands of people in the arenas, but maybe it's just games. Something I've always said, 99% of people only consume the NBA through some sort of media platform. I mean, it's only a tiny percentage of our fans that actually get to see our games in arenas. So those fans who, watch on television or whatever device they have are fans just in the same way people are in the arena, and maybe even through new kinds of technology. There's ways that fans can be virtual, that they can react to plays on the court and make noise in the arena. I don't know, sometimes out of even the worst crisis comes opportunity. And one thing I'll say about the United States, and maybe as we've watched this unfold around the world, that we're an incredible country, and some of the greatest inventions, some of the best innovation, some of the best minds are in this country. And I think I'm sure as people are sitting home but still working, they're thinking of these various things. So how can we restart the economy, and what role can the NBA play?
So Adam, any charity event aside, which I assume would be more of a one-off, if you did actually restart the season, in your mind, is that regular season games first? Would you go straight into the playoffs? What would that look like as we're talking about games that might not restart until July and August?
Rachel, I honestly don't know, just because I don't have a good enough sense of how long a period this is going to be. As I said, I mean, even the fact that we were using the word hiatus just a week ago, and that sort of the implication was a short amount of time. I think I said last Thursday, not less than 30 days, just to give some guidance to our teams and players. But at this point, I really don't know.
Do you have a feeling as we sit here what percentage you
know,
feel like the NBA season will continue versus get canceled?
I don't. I mean, I certainly, I'm optimistic by nature, and I want to believe that we're going to be able to salvage at least some portion of this season. Again, I'd say, you know, we've done new and creative things in the past. We experimented with this year's All-Star game with a unique ending. You know, we've talked about play-in tournaments for the, you know, going into the playoffs. You know, there may be other things we can do with the format. I know I've heard from a lot of our players. I mean, it's actually been less than a week. They're going stir crazy. They want to play. They want to compete. Players, as you know, I mean, unlike a lot of us in our positions, we can just go back to what we were doing. But every player, I mean, is fighting, you know, something that's unwinnable, and that's the aging process. So, you know, a lost year or lost portion of a season in their careers is very different than other people. So, you know, we're going to try by every means we can to play basketball again. But, you know, I say that the safety and health of our players is first, and our fans, which is why I don't want to speculate more than that. I mean, that will be the condition upon which we can play when public health officials give us the okay.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.